Welcome to the Unlist, guys. This is episode 31. That's a lot of content, 20 minutes, 25 minutes a piece times 30. I kind of wonder sometimes if I have too much content, if I'm just kind of, screaming into a paper bag here or skipping rocks because the amount of followers I have and the amount of views my videos get. And I'm just like, am I wasting my time or not? Because I'm certainly not wasting your time because you guys aren't watching the videos. So I know I'm not wasting your time. So am I wasting my time? Self-doubt and all that stuff aside, episode 31 is going to be about a more recent fragrance house, So hopefully it won't be as long of a video. I won't be pushing that 25-minute mark this time around because this house has only been around, at least in terms of fragrance, has only been around for maybe 25 years. I mean, right around the beginning of the 21st century is when Mont Blanc, started making fragrances. Although the actual house itself is much, much older than that, actually over a century old. So the early 20th century, basically, we saw a pen manufacturer in Germany, Hamburg, Germany. Pen manufacturer has a really complicated name, guys. I am terrible with French, so I'm probably going to be even worse with this German. But it's like simplicissimus full something or other, Fullhagen or Fullhalter, that's it. Simplicissimus Fullhalter was the name of the company that produced the Mont Blanc pen. So the pen had a French name, but the pen maker was Simplicissimus Fullhalter. God, that is different. I don't know how you guys do it over there, man. In Germany, I don't know how you do it. Like you have all these 25, 50-letter words with no spaces. You must have keyboards without space bars. Like your typewriters from back then must have not had space bars. So you just decide to run all the words together. Not sure. Someone who's a linguist can probably explain to me why it is that way, but the Germans with the freaking long words like that, oh my God. Oh my God. Anyway, they came to their senses and they originally shortened that whole thing. That whole thing was shortened to Simplo Filler Pen Company with spaces. Spaces. Wow. So Simplicissimus Fullhalter became Simplo Filler Pen. They probably just took the German and made it into English. Honestly, they probably just anglophoned their name, hence it became that. But then Simplo Filler Pen, who produced the Mont Blanc pen, sold so many of those pens, sold so many Mont Blanc pens that someone said, hey, you know what? Let's just name the company after the pen. Since people ask for the pen. They don't ask for Simplicissimus blah, 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 right? And they're not asking for Simplo either. They're asking for Mont Blanc. So we just make ourselves out to be Mont Blanc, okay? So that's when Mont Blanc was born. Here's the thing, though. Mont Blanc used to make pens in different price points. And their Meisterstück was their expensive ones, the ones that cost several $100s. But they had ones below that. And they competed with the likes of Parker and Schaefer. So we're talking fountain pens, ballpoint pens, refillable ones, inkwell ones, cartridge ones, you name it. Okay, but I think it was their Meisterstück, their high-end pens that got them the most recognition. So over the decades into the 70s, when they were purchased by Alfred Dunhill, yeah, that's who bought them. Alfred Dunhill bought them. And under Alfred Dunhill, they got rid of their more mid-tier stuff. So all the pens that you would find in your typical stationery stores and stuff disappeared. And they only sold the luxury pens that would come directly out of the Mont Blanc stores or boutiques or whatever. So they became the rich man's pen, effectively. Although really, you can still get, if you want one, you can get a Mont Blanc for like $150-ish, which is still a lot of money for a pen. But considering how much handbags and shoes and stuff cost, I mean, that's still within reach. Someone like me could buy one. I mean, I don't know if I would want a $150 pen in my pocket, because what happens if I run it through the wash machine, right? There you go. So, in any case, Alfred Dunhill owned them right up until the 2000s. And that's why when they did decide to launch fragrances right around the 21st century, they were underneath the same license that Alfred Dunhill was under, the Scannon fragrance license. So Scannon produced the first couple of Mont Blanc scents, including the Presence fragrance and then the one that put them on the map, which was Individuel. So the thing about Individuel is not to skip over Presence, but Presence is just kind of there, okay? Because it's called Presence. So the fragrance has a presence, but that's about all it has, all right? So Individuel was definitely more noteworthy because it was made by Pierre Bourdon, and Pierre Bourdon is a genius. So Pierre Bourdon basically went back and looked at his work for Joop when he and Michael Myrack were developing Joop Homme. And that had a very spicy, fruity, floral, weird combination for men. It was a narrowly fruity orange blossom and then cinnamon over like, you know, patchouli. It was a very loud, sweet, floral fragrance that was marketed to guys. So, you know, I came up in the gay clubs and everyone was wearing Joop or Le Male, so it was one of those big, loud, announce yourself kind of things. And a lot of your real super, you know, super straight, you're super ultra straight guys. You're, I'm so straight. Yeah, I can't even hug another guy. That's how straight I am. Those kind of guys hated Joop. You know, they're like, oh, you smell like a fairy or whatever. And I'm like, maybe I want to smell like a fairy, bitch, right? So that's where that sat. And I feel like Individuel was maybe an attempt to tone that down a bit, to take some of the Pete Burns, you know, some of the Boy George out of that fragrance profile and make it, you know, a little more hetero-friendly, I guess. So Individuel kind of sees the fruit notes toned down and the spices become a bit drier. And the focus becomes more on sandalwood and like soapy, office-friendly musk accords. I don't say that Individuel is an office-safe fragrance, but I will say it is a little safer to wear in an office than Joop is, definitely. So that fragrance came out, very complex fragrance, and it kind of just didn't do well because nobody was looking to buy fragrances from a pen maker, right? Nobody was. So then here comes Olivier Creed. You know, he liked to pluck the mods, the unused mods from Pierre Bourdon and release them as Creeds. That's where Green Irish Tweed and all that other stuff came from back then. So he's like, hey, so, you know, I'll take one of your rejected mods for that Individuel fragrance because I think it smells good. So he gave him one of the alternate formulas. And that became Original Santal in 2005, 2006. That fragrance, because it's Creed, and Creed is always hyped, that fragrance went and blew up. So suddenly all of those Mont Blanc Individuel, yeah, let's rewind that a bit. Those Mont Blanc Individuel bottles, suddenly they were actually in demand. And considering that Mont Blanc had recently switched from Scannon to Interparfums when they sold to the company Richemont, who also owns Cartier and other luxury houses. So Individuel was discontinued for a little bit, and the prices on it began to skyrocket because it was seen as a cheaper alternative to the Creed. So they quickly put that fragrance back in production. Clearly, they saw money on the table now. So Individuel went back into production. Suddenly it became a success, and now Mont Blanc was taken a little more seriously. Now here's the thing. It doesn't really matter how seriously the average person takes Mont Blanc. People in the fragrance community have never really cared for this house. And I can understand why, because Mont Blanc really does sort of take the high road. They play it very safe, okay? They look at what's going on in the market around them, and they decide to do fragrances that are either similar to successful fragrances from other brands. So they kind of go, all right, well, I'll have what he's having, basically. And they make it significantly different enough that it's not a clone, but it smells like it also ran. So they kind of play the Avon game a little bit, where Avon goes, all right, well, Eternity is selling like hotcakes, so we'll do something that's Eternity-like, you know, but we'll sell it for less because we're Avon. So Mont Blanc is like, okay, well, this is doing really well, so we'll put our twist on this. So that's how we'll make money. because people will be like, hey, this was an alternative to this Creed fragrance, right? So they kind of went, well, we'll just be the alternative to everyone else. Everyone who doesn't want to buy Chanel or Dior or YSL or these other expensive brands, the salesperson doesn't want to lose a sale. We're like, hey, well, we have this Mont Blanc over here. We'll just slide right on and be like, hey, we heard you like this fragrance, but you don't want to pay for it. So buy ours instead. It's kind of like theirs. It's a little different, but it's just as good. And it's like $30 cheaper. So that was the game Mont Blanc played for a little while. And us frag heads, we don't like that, okay? We don't like the compare to brand X, because we like our fragrances to like come out and smack us like we owe them money. We like our fragrances to put the Viking hat on and grab the axe and go and rape and pillage and burn our villages to the ground. We want our fragrances to ravage us, you know, like we're in a zombie apocalypse and we're running from our fragrances. They're trying to chew our arm off. That's what we want from our fragrances. We don't want our fragrance to be like, you know, sup, like that, and just have nothing to really add, you know, pleasant background music. We don't want that. So we get a little angry at Mont Blanc, because Mont Blanc makes these fabulous bottles like this with these heavy metal caps, because they're trying to harken back to their pens, right? So they make everything really heavy and substantial like this, metal collars, metal caps that feel good in the hand. But then you go and you spray the fragrance and you're like, okay, it smells like Invictus, or okay, it smells like Aventus, or okay, it smells like something else, you know, but a little different. Like it smells like 75% like this other fragrance, and then the other 25% is where they make the changes. We don't like that. We feel like we're getting bamboozled, you know, like we're being baited and switched, and that's just not what we like. Me personally, I see nothing wrong with that. I see Mont Blanc as being a very pragmatic brand. They are the brand for the non-enthusiast. They are the brand for the guy that just wants to get the job done. They want to get her done, sonny boy. They just want to get her done. They don't care about none of them finer points of fragrance. They don't care about the sillage. They don't care about the uniqueness. They don't care about compliments. They just want to get her done. And that's kind of what Mont Blanc does. It comes in there and it fixes your leaky pipes, you know. It replaces the toilet lever. It comes in there and changes your electrical outlet, you know, screws in a new light bulb for you, and just goes, there you go, Sonny Jim, you're all ready to go. Here's the bill, and then they leave. That's what Mont Blanc does. And a lot of us just don't like that. Me personally, I do like that. I've got a number of their fragrances. And sometimes I even have the fragrances that they are considered alternatives to. So getting back on this one, this is a flanker to the original line of Mont Blanc Legend. Mont Blanc Legend itself, when it came out in 2011, was heavily compared to Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce. And I can definitely see why. It's almost like someone took Fierce and tried to make it a little more serious, you know? They wanted to make it for a little bit of an older audience. So whereas Fierce is like the epitome of 2000s hot topic, teenage angst, you know, all the people who were too cool for school were playing hooky and going into the Abercrombie & Fitch boutique and coming out with the bottle with the abs on it because that's cool. Jumping in their IROC Camaros and blasting down the highway or whatever, listening to Candlebox or something, or Limp Bizkit. Okay, so fast forward to 2011, which is almost 10 years after Fierce came out. That was 2002. Those guys are now in like their late 20s and they have office jobs. They sold those Camaros because they were terrible on gas. Now they have like Volkswagens, okay? They have to wear dress shirts to work, and they have to cut their hair, and they can't have a bazillion facial piercings anymore. So that person still has a small affinity for fragrance like Fierce, but they want to be taken more seriously. So here comes Mont Blanc again, like, hey, we heard you like this fragrance, but you feel silly now wearing it. So we have a more serious, more grown-up alternative, and we call it Legend. So Olivier Pichot made that fragrance. And he basically just took the Fierce DNA and he dumped in Palmarosa molecule because maybe he had a boner for Donna Karan, because Donna Karan used Palmarosa a lot in their fragrances, particularly the Be Delicious line. For men and women both had Palmarosa molecule. The first fragrance line to feature that molecule, by the way. So he just dumped some Palmarosa into the Legend, And then he also stuck in like a very heavy dose of synthetic oak moss, because this is 2011, so oak moss was kind of on the way out. So rather than try and have like a sliver of oak moss in there and have to remove it anyway in another like 5 years, they went, you know what, we'll just not even bother with the real stuff. We'll just stick a bunch of Evernal in here. But they put so much Evernal into the Legend formula that they made it kind of flat. So Legend gets beat up because it smells like a heavier, sort of more dank, more just thud, like a paperweight. Someone took a bottle of Fierce and put a paperweight on it, because it's an office fragrance, so ha ha ha, paperweight, yeah, with your Mont Blanc pen right next to it, yeah. Anyway, so this one, Legend Spirit, is kind of going after Invictus Aqua, which Invictus Aqua, as you know, was originally a limited flanker. Then they brought it back out, and in 2 years' time, they brought it back out and changed the formula. So that original version of Aqua, that is now like a unicorn, and it's like $500 on eBay. That original version of Aqua was up for grabs because Paco Rabanne wasn't going to put that back out again. It was a bit of a saltier, more ozonic formula. The current Aqua that you can buy now, darker bottle, is a bit sweeter, a bit fruitier, a bit more conventional aquatic, okay? It didn't have the same ocean spray kind of feeling that the older version had. So they went, hey, let's just do our take on that. Since there is no alternative now, we can be the replacement. Instead of being the alternative, we're the replacement. So they came in with this, and while it's not one-to-one, the original Invictus Aqua, it's a little more lavender. See, Aqua didn't have a whole lot of lavender. This one's got more lavender going on. I dare say a little more dihydromercinol in it, so it feels a little bit more filmy, soapy. So it's not an exact one-for-one copy, but it's, again, it's get her done, you know, it'll get the job done. It's good enough for government work, you know, there you go. It's good enough for government work, and that's what this is. And I like wearing it when it's hot outside because that's where this stuff shines anyway. Now, the big one is going to be Mont Blanc Explorer, which came out in, I think, 2018 or 19. I don't remember which. But that fragrance really shook up things because I feel like this was Mont Blanc trying to get back at Creed for taking their individual and making it a success story and leaving them just holding the bag, you know? So, granted, if you come out with a direct clone of Aventus, you get called an Aventus clone. And then if you get called an Aventus clone, same sort of thing. Nobody takes you seriously in the online community. Everyone goes, oh, it's a clone, it's garbage, whatever. So like, okay, we got to do the thing that Mont Blanc always does and come up with a more pragmatic, more sensible, more mature alternative to probably the most popular niche fragrance in recent history, aside from like BR 540. So how do you do that? Well, you get some people together. I think there's 2 or 3 perfumers actually involved with Explorer. And you take the basic things that people enjoy about Aventus and you strip away everything else. So the things people like the most about Aventus, okay, is they like that fresh opening and they like that sort of ambergris, dry, denatured ambergris. It doesn't have like a fishy or halitosis smell, but they like that fresh opening and that sort of dry, denatured ambergris finish. So that's kind of what they did with the Explorer. They got rid of the pineapple. They got rid of most of the vanilla. They put Akagala wood in there to replace the patchouli. So they made a sort of drier, woodier, more stripped down, basic, sporty version of Aventus. And it sold like hotcakes. And then they came out with a blue one, and now there's a silver one. So there you have it, guys. That's Mont Blanc for you. They are the house of sensible alternatives. So if you like their pens, let me know. If you like their fragrances, let me know. If you think they're just garbage, also let me know. Thank you for watching the Unlist, and I'll see you next time.